Welcome everybody. We are here live in wonderful Cape Town attending the World Employment Confederation. I'm here joined by Charles Cameron, World Employment Confederation Vice President. My name is Francesca Profeta, Research Analyst for Staffing Industry Analysts. And we just really wanted to have a conversation discussing really the themes of the last few days, what's been the highlights and major themes that we have been discussing, and hopefully what we're going to be able to provide some insights onto. So, Charles, over the last couple of days, how has it been for you? What have you enjoyed? What have been the general theme of conversations with the people that you've been having?
It's always interesting to come together at least once a year, Francesca, and actually almost dip your toe into what's happening around the whole globe. I think most of us come to the World Employment Conference thinking that we're going to bring a special perspective or one that's quite unique. And I think this year is no different. Well, what we walk away with is a common understanding that the issues that are affecting the Norwegians are the same as those in New Zealand. And those in Africa are really quite similar, and of course with some nuance to those in Brazil. Probably one of the key themes that we heard is full employment, ageing workforces, and I think threats to social cohesion with the mobility of labour. So when we come together and we start looking at being here in Africa, where there are huge amounts of untapped labour, it makes us think about the fact that if we do truly act globally, we can actually provide many solutions that we would not be able to provide if we simply looked at it from the perspective of the Norwegians or the New Zealanders.
So, Charles, one thing that John and I did mention when we were doing our presentation was that obviously the world of work is actually changing, right? So there's social issues, there's people issues are changing, there's issues around technology. All of these things are really impacting global themes. However, if we look at it on a country-to-country basis, maybe we could highlight some of the things that are changing within specific markets.
Yeah, well, look, you don't have to go too far to understand that at the moment, when we sit here right now, that tariffs and geopolitics are playing a far greater role than maybe they traditionally do. I think that we really need to bring a bit of what we call issues mindfulness to these discussions, which is there are some things you can control and some things that you cannot control. One of the things that I found intriguing, of course, in the SIA presentation was the continued and quite rapid expansion of non-traditional labour market enablement and, of course, moving beyond just simple, freelance and gig platforms, but moving far more into ways in which customers are actually being supported and indeed the buying decisions of customers moving forward. Equally, when I had a conversation about how it might be impacting those in Italy or Brazil with some of our larger members, they're not adopting as much in the tech space as well, but it's not actually impacting their bottom line either. So I find it always quite intriguing that there is the capacity to go back to the well and actually continue to do direct placement employment really well still, and still agency work without. But I also worry that if we don't continue to innovate and we sit and we take more of a how do we keep others out approach, then we will be left behind.
Yeah, definitely. When we were talking about platformization of the industry, and we've seen some really lovely growth around that, as I mentioned, between 2019 and 2024, that particular segment grew 10%, where traditional staffing only grew 3%. And the uptake that larger organisations especially have had, when we looked at the top 10, 7 out of the 10 do have a self-serving platform offering. So it's definitely something that it's being taken extremely seriously as a way to an omni-channel approach to getting through to your candidates, but also moving into maybe more markets that are difficult in nature to get into via a platform. So these are all different ways in which we can expand that kind of omni-channel approach in staffing and reach more candidates. The other point that you did mention, obviously, was staffing companies being of more strategic value to their clients. And we have noted that they are doing this For example, in the IT sector, we noted that they're offering maybe statement of work offerings and more consultative approaches. There is sometimes some risk to that, but margins generally are much higher, and they are more of a consultative partner to their clients. And also they're really providing that value added and becoming those niche players within the industry as well. So yes, definitely different ways in which we have to expand and evolve as a staffing 5.0, I think the title was. But
yeah, I mean, you talk about 5.0. I think we saw LinkedIn equally put up a presentation that looked at the future recruiter. And I actually took a photograph of what they articulated would be the disciplines or the skills required. I found it interesting that there wasn't really anything there in terms of sales or marketing. And I think many current, more traditional recruitment and staffing firms have a very heavy focus upon their people being really well equipped when it comes to sales and marketing, where I do wonder if it's actually possible to transition those individuals with those competencies or those innate capabilities into the future recruiter. I actually don't think we can. I mean, some, of course, but...
Yeah, they were talking about complementary and sort of adjacent skills and stuff like that. But yeah, as you said, there were items that were definitely lacking.
Spot on. And a lot of our members, certainly down under, when we talk to them about making that transition and that evolution, a lot of them are very concerned about blowing up their existing business model, which ain't broken. It's starting to crack in places, but it's not broken. It takes a big leap of faith. But this is where the data that SIA provide and really highlighting, well, gee, you better get on because if you don't, you're going to get left behind.
For sure. And then there was a lot of discussion, not only from sort of other intermediaries, but outside of the industry. So threats maybe from outside of the industry. That we had a couple of people grumbling about maybe it's seen as a little bit cheating and stuff. Did you want to elaborate on that and how we could maybe mitigate those kind of risks as well?
I mean, equal playing field is something that, quite validly, those who operate in accordance with the laws are concerned about, that others can simply come and under the guise of innovation and evolution can decide not to comply with simple minimum wage requirements or workers' compensation requirements or health and safety and social support. So I empathise, but I think the market is moving so quickly that regulators can't keep up. So, like many circumstances, we are actually seeing many of our larger members of the World Employment Confederation adopting those approaches. But from a standard setting point of view, it becomes really troublesome, Francesca, because whether you comply with the law as it currently stands is whether you comply with the law. Simply saying, well, we are doing it differently because we're simply supporting the market, it has real challenges about it.
And there is obviously frameworks that the WEC has put into place with regard to AI utilisation and things like that. However, as per usual, it's the age-old concern that legislation isn't really up to speed with what's happening in the world of work, and you're maybe running slightly behind on that as well. So
yeah, well, government always will. I put it to the EU Commissioner, I think 3 years ago in a World Employment conference, that I don't think government is capable of staying on pace when it comes to regulating the world of work. So that is problematic, and we do come from a base of being better than the rest and being compliant and being ethical and having integrity.
Sure.
However, we also have to ask the question, well, can you continue to operate a firm with high integrity if you are losing huge amounts of market share to others who actually don't necessarily comply with the traditional rules? That's an ethical dilemma we're dealing with.
Yeah. The other item, and I'm not too sure if it's because of where we're at or the location, but there's been a lot of discussion about sustainability, DE&I, ERG generally within organisations, and that's something that people will know that's very dear to me. I do work on diversity, equity, and inclusion as a sector, so I'm very aware of what's happening in the world of work at the moment and how complex that is for many people, and how much stress that's adding to their daily lives. But one thing that is really good that I've noticed here was combining social purpose to commercial solutions. Like, we have many issues with regards to skill shortages and so on and so forth, but there's been some really great initiatives and speakers that have attended, and I know one is particularly close to your remit. So maybe you'd like to elaborate on that a bit.
Yeah, so Elevate Africa is a program that we have adopted within Australia, and we're now sharing it across the World Employment Conference network, because we think it is the triple threat. It provides amazing opportunities to give the youth of Africa, who, of course, you're probably aware, over half of the youth of Africa are unemployed. Yeah, with the opportunity to be trained up into new positions. They can remain in Africa and, of course, spread.
I think that's one thing that was the biggest highlight for me, is that they wanted, obviously, we talk about brain drain and being, resources actually leaving countries. And something that was specifically good in this particular project is that they wanted the workers to stay here and do the work remotely, which we discussed when we were talking about labour arbitrage and where the work gets done. 53% does get done in the Indian continent. So, maybe there'll be a shift.
Well, I found that slide again. I took note of it, took a photo of it, because that labour arbitrage, when you looked at the top, I think it was 15 countries where the labour arbitrage was occurring, i.e. offshore labour. Africa wasn't even in that.
No, that's exactly
but it probably has the largest untapped pool of any country. So if we can provide them with opportunity, we can actually provide our clients through labour market enablers like WEC members with a wider suite of candidates. And equally, the WEC firms can actually be part of the full spread of solutions.
And it's a wonderful solution, really well worthwhile as well looking into. So highly recommend that. But I think with that, we've run out of time, Charles. So thank you very much for taking the time. And it's been great being in Cape Town with everybody. Take care.
Thanks, Francesca.